I'll bet that plenty of tarot readers couldn't live without their tarot journal, while others avoid them entirely. As for me, I use my tarot journal to think. In this video, I'm taking you through a full reading, step by step, writing out the prompts, my first impressions, and bringing out the guidebook. You'll see the whole process unfold. It's not the neatest or the prettiest journal, but it is the one I actually use. So if you've got your deck and a notebook nearby, let's read together. This video was chosen for you today by my Patreon community, so a big thank you to my Magpie members. If you want to help shape what I film or join us in the Tarot Lab, there's a link to my memberships in the description. Okay, so what I didn't show you was the process of choosing a spread to work with. On this day, I had no burning question that I wanted to answer, but I did just want to pull some cards and have a little bit of a journaling session. So off camera, I flipped through several different books. I've got a few different spread books. I've got my own spreads before I landed on this, I think it's a Hidden Shadow spread from Drea Bloom's latest book, Tarot for the Soul. So what you've seen me doing so far is just writing out all of my prompts. And this step is so important. It's the most tedious, annoying step, so I make myself do it first. And also it helps me when I come to shuffle, which is what I am now doing. If I have the prompts written down, it keeps me, first of all, it keeps me from sort of retrofitting the question to the cards that I end up pulling, but it also helps me prepare to answer it, because as I'm sitting here shuffling my cards, I'm mulling over those questions in my mind, exactly what they mean. A huge part of my own personal reading process is making sure I really understand the question that I'm asking, and just kind of going over that in my head before I actually pull the cards helps me respond to the question with the cards that I end up pulling. So here, this was, like I said, a Hidden Shadow spread. I pulled the Six of Swords, the Seven of Swords, and then the Nine of Cups. And as you can see, I decided to pull in an oracle because that Six of Swords instinctively didn't make a lot of sense to me. And so I decided to pull in an oracle deck. And I do like to use multiple decks. In this particular instance, I was sort of treating the oracle deck like seasoning. I just felt this reading needed a little bit of extra flavor to pull it all together. And in this reading, I was using the When Olga Speaks oracle deck as the additional note for this tarot reading. So here we are. I am just writing in the cards that I pulled next to the prompts, and you can see I'm using colored pens for this. This is something I do a lot. I pick a colored pen for the deck that I'm using, in this case 2 pens, so that later when I come in and add notes from the guidebook, if I'm writing it in that colored pen, I know that it's from the guidebook. And right now I'm just going through with a pencil and writing down some like really sort of high level first impressions that are less about the reading and more about the kind of cards. So for instance, that Six of Swords has kind of been stalking me. So I wrote that in. I think I wrote down that the oracle card that I pulled, that guidance card, I was like, oh, that is literally explaining that Six of Swords to me. And now we're into the questions. This one is more of a linear, long form journal entry than I usually do. You can see right now I've got my purple pen out. I am writing down a quote directly from the guidebook. I also love a mind map spread, which I do all the time. You've seen them many a time on this channel, but this is much more like long form writing sentences. I am answering each prompt sort of one after the other. I will, of course, like reference back and pull things together, but I am sort of answering each question at a time. The black pen is my own thoughts, the interpretations I have for the card, just in my own head, the things that come up, the things that feel relevant to the question. And then when I'm pulling out that colored pen, it's because I'm pulling directly from the guidebook. And I have a little bit of it's almost like I'm having a bit of a dialogue with the guidebook. Like I write down my own thoughts. My format of writing is often like I'm asking myself questions as I go. I'll be like rephrasing the tarot spread question and being like, okay, how the hell does that apply to the Six of Swords? Maybe it's this thing. And then I pull out a quote from the guidebook and I'm like, okay, well, that could reference something else that's going on or something else that I know about this card. I do want to take a moment to really shout out guidebooks, and particularly to shout out the guidebook for this deck, for the Circle of Doors Tarot. One of my absolute favorites. It has so many gems in it, just the way that things are phrased, the specific language that is used. There are some really cool interpretations of the cards, like just slightly different perspectives that I really love. So whenever I read with this deck, I am going to pull the guidebook out. I'm going to say it now. This is a pro guidebook. I am a pro guidebook tarot reader. I consider myself a fairly fluent tarot reader, but I still will forever be reaching for guidebooks because I love to see what different creators have to say about their own decks. I want to know what their vision was. I want to know what their perspectives are. So I love a guidebook, and as I've already said, I like to use a different color pen so that if I'm reading back through this, I know that that was a quote that came from the guidebook and not something that came from my own brain, which I do find quite useful when I'm looking back, especially when it comes to sort of transferring some of these notes into my digital notes of card meanings. I don't want to like accidentally plagiarize someone. I've spent far too much time in the world of academia to feel comfortable with the idea of not citing my sources. So that's kind of a way of doing this. And yes, reading with the guidebook, it's not cheating. Don't let anyone tell you it's cheating. The creators wrote these guidebooks for a reason. They want you to read them. I think it's just really interesting to get those different perspectives. Something I always find really interesting when I'm doing a reading in which my journal entry is this like linear long form where I'm writing a response to each prompt is that there always seems to be a pattern in that either the first entry gets a lot of description and then they get kind of more and more succinct, or the other way around. And I think that just goes to show or demonstrates the way that the reading builds complexity as you layer it up and as you see those connections. So either those connections jump out at the front, and in my first prompt response, I'll end up writing the kind of big themes, and then each subsequent prompt is just getting a little bit more succinct because I've already mentioned some things. Or it happens the other way around, and as I get deeper into the reading, I'm sort of uncovering more layers, and I'll be writing, oh, and this is like that other quote that I wrote down for the previous card. This is like that other theme that I've already pulled out. That is why I love mind map readings so much, which again, you can see here on the channel. I've definitely done plenty of videos with mind map readings. Both styles definitely serve different parts of my brain because I'm quite wordy. I don't know if you've noticed, I talk a lot. I'm quite wordy. I value language. I value specificity of language. So I like being able to sort of write these long form entries occasionally. All right, so in the interest of keeping this one vaguely short and sweet, there is a little section right at the end where I write out my own key takeaways from the reading. Basically, that ends up being either like the big message of the reading and also any phrases that I particularly liked, any ideas that I particularly liked, whether that was from a guidebook or just something I came up with, something that I've not really thought about before or put into those particular words before. I know there was something in this reading about the idea of discipline and self-trust and how those are like intertwined, which is just really interesting to come out of this reading. But anywho, my key takeaways for you from this video, if you are looking for some, I don't know, if you're looking for some advice on keeping a tarot journal or just want to know how I read, unfortunately, it is the really boring bits that are actually the most helpful in my experience. Writing out the damn prompts is actually one of the most important things that I make myself do every single time, even when it's a spread like this, where there's like quite a few like sub questions. It's not just a keyword, because even if I have the book, even if the spread came from a guidebook or it's one of my own spreads, I know I'm not going to go and look up the questions when I'm flipping back through my tarot journal. It is just infinitely easier to have the full prompt spread question written out for me to refer back to, because I do like to flip back through my readings. and just reflect on when I've pulled cards before and what those cards have meant, especially, like I said, with that Six of Swords that's really following me at the moment. I like to be able to flip back through my readings and see how I've interpreted that Six of Swords previously, even though it's been in totally different spreads, totally different questions. It's just really interesting to see what has come up again and again, and maybe this reading is the one that puts the Six of Swords into perspective for me. If when I go back through my last few readings where that card came up, I can insert what I have learned about the Six of Swords in this reading into that previous one, give a little bit more context. Anywho, that's just so much easier to do if I have the spread questions because I know what I am responding to. The other thing that I would really recommend is to, especially if you use a guidebook, and that's a sub point, use the guidebook. There is no shame in reaching for the guidebook. There is no shame in pulling a card and being like, well, what the hell does that mean in this context? I know we've all been there. Using a different color pen or a pencil, or I don't know, even if you're just highlighting or underlining or something so that you know what came from you and what came from the guidebook. Maybe you're not as concerned about citing your sources as I am, but I think it's just helpful. It's just good to see. It's just good to see what came from you and what came from something else and what you were inspired by as well. I find that really useful. So those are my two big practical takeaways. The other thing I would say is that yes, this is a linear, long form, full sentences, semi-full sentences kind of journal entry, but it's not the only kind of journal entry I do. I play with doing mind maps. Some of my journal entries are really short. This was quite a lengthy one because I had a lot to say, but plenty of my readings have been pretty straightforward, like a few bullet points, a few keywords, and then I've written like a little summary paragraph. Whereas for this reading, the summary paragraph that I'm about to start, I think, is actually not very long because it's just like really kind of high level key points. And I think that about does it. So not everything is tidy. It all kind of gets thrown together, and I do a lot of sort of chaining my ideas together. So when I said full sentences, that was a lie. I'll write something from the guidebook that will make me think of something else that will reference a previous card pull, and it's all sort of chaining it together and self-referential. But I think that is what is so magical about a tarot reading. And if you go around the houses enough times, you eventually find the kind of most crystallized version of whatever wisdom the reading has to offer. So I'm going to leave that here with you. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you do in your tarot readings. Let me know what your process looks like, whether you write everything down or if you just sort of reflect and write some keywords, or if you just take a photo. Also, let me know if you have beautiful aesthetically pleasing tarot journals, because I'm jealous. This is about as beautiful as I can make it with some colored pens. That's honestly about it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending some time with me here at Tarot Magpie. Once again, thank you to my patrons for choosing this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.